Another session of the Hello and welcome to another session of the A4Q Testing Summit. With me, I have Andreas Günther, and he will be talking about quality assurance for SAP and the challenges that come with implementing. I will hand over to him for his presentation, and I thank him in advance for the content.
Thank you very much. So welcome to this session and welcome live from Marrakesh. I'm very happy to talk to you about challenges you might face when you are dealing with SAP upgrades, or especially when you're dealing with the migration to S4HANA. Maybe you're there yet, or maybe it's on your roadmap. But I'm gonna give you some nice insights on how you can tackle those issues. Unfortunately, we have a little technical glitch here, so please be patient for a moment before I can present my slides. They will be there shortly. So first of all, when we address the topic of SAP testing, we have to understand your starting point. That means we need to know where you are, what is your situation, and what you are going to achieve. Then I want to show you some ways how you can take control of your SAP quality assurance. And yes, there are some technical solutions outside which you can take advantage of. And those solutions will provide you a lot of insight. And these insights will allow you to base your decisions based on data. And in order to make sure that you really bring your power to the ground, we can help you to deliver more value with streamlined approaches. And at the end, I'm going to give you a brief summary of what the key takeaways are. Okay, let's briefly start with the situation and the starting point. So you may know that 94% of the world's 500 largest companies are SAP customers. 94%. That's a huge percentage. And on the other hand, you would be surprised to know that typically an enterprise portfolio consists of 2,000 to 3,000 different applications which are more or less working together. So knowing that so many applications have to be orchestrated, you can imagine that that quality assurance for such a vast abundance of applications becomes a real challenge. And I'm talking about that many applications are working together. So also be aware that a single transaction typically touches around 83 different technologies. Okay, now the complexity becomes even clearer. So when we asked our customers together with the ASOC about what are the main challenges when they try to update their SAP systems. And please memorize these three things. 53% said risk. That means when they upgrade their SAP system, they do not have control over the risk, and they do not want to put their business and their business processes at stake. 85% of the people we asked mentioned that speed is an issue. That means upgrading their SAP systems takes longer than they had expected. And last but not least, 41% of the people we asked complained about the cost. The cost associated with updating their SAP system is a concern for them. So the three main topics, I repeat, is risk, speed, and cost. Well, you won't be surprised to see that this is exactly what the magic triangle typically is about. So how can we tackle those issues? When we looked at customers, at large enterprise corporations who were updating their SAP systems, we were able to achieve significant improvement for them. So we were able to analyze up to 1 million objects. We were able to reduce the QA time by up to 85%. And we were able to save up to 1,000 hours of manual effort. So these are huge numbers, and these are huge achievements, which we would also like you to benefit from. So let's jump into the first aspect, the taking control of your SAP quality assurance. And I hope you will be able to see my slides starting now. Oh yes, this looks good. Let's have a look at the top challenges when testing SAP systems, what we discussed before. So the typical approach of testing SAP system consists of the different phases of unit testing, system integration, end-to-end testing, user acceptance, and then eventually launch to production. If you look at this process, this looks pretty much like a waterfall or at best a V-model approach. And you remember that a very high percentage of the people we asked complained about the speed of updating the SAP processes. And if you look at this process, this is a legacy process, which is not really made for speed. So how can we accelerate this process? At the beginning, typically there is a very heavy manual analysis and investigation to identify and assess the risk. And the QA scope is massive. Remember, 83 transactions are touched, 83 technologies are touched by a single transaction. This leads to a really slow release frequency, and troubleshooting and debugging of issues takes really, really long. So the typical approach when when SAP systems are being updated is, after the update, there is an extensive hypercare phase. Hypercare means all hands on deck. Everybody is prepared to tackle all issues which may arise and to solve those issues which arise in production as quickly as possible. Well, you notice something? I'm talking about solving issues arising in production. Well, isn't testing in QA about avoiding issues before they arise? So this is what we really want to achieve. We want to identify such issues as early as possible, and we want to reduce the extremely high cost of the hypercare phase. And be aware and keep in mind, the hypercare phase means fixing issues in production. That means the issues are already there. They have probably already been made public, and they have already hit your customers. So we want to try to avoid the hypercare phase as much as possible. So what can we do to transform this? First of all, we want to make sure that we take advantage of the technical solutions. Then we make qualified data-driven decisions. That means we do not make decisions on the QA scope based on gut feelings, but data-driven, objective data, which leads to a really good control of the scope and control of the quality. And of course, the approach we take for testing needs to be streamlined across the entire testing chain. So how can this be achieved? First of all, we need to analyze changes continuously, and we need to decrease the business risk by orchestrating the QA effectively. So in the past, changes had been tracked manually, and if you are aware that so many systems and so many different technologies are being touched, so it's very difficult to manually assess the impact of a single change throughout the entire tool chain. Next thing, the key factor here is speed. Speed, speed, and speed. So in order to achieve speed, manual testing is certainly not of great help. So we need to make sure to speed up the QA with new technologies, and we want to enable innovation, and we want to have a really fast time to market. And last but not least, of course, this leads to a reduction of costs by improved quality at every stage. And ultimately, we managed to reduce or eliminate to a great extent the hypercare phase, which is extremely sensitive and extremely costly, and which bears an extremely high risk. So this orchestration makes sure that we do not only touch upon one system, but we touch across the entire architecture and the entire system, which is crucial for our day-to-day business. So what does this taking advantage of technical solutions look like? We want to continually analyze changes and decrease business risk by orchestrating QA efficiently. What does that mean? How can we identify potential risks early? First of all, we have a design phase, and we want to make an analysis to identify what to test. Once we have defined the scope, we want to test continuously. That means each new release, each new transport needs to undergo a regression testing. So we need to have continuous testing, which only runs via automation. And so the continuous testing basically is functional testing, but this is not enough. We also need to make sure that our systems are able to keep up with the load to be expected in production when all the customers come onto the system. For example, even if you have peak times such as a Black Friday or Black Week, something like that, we really need to make sure that our systems can keep up with the massive load to be expected in production. And only when this is all checked off, we are good to release. So looking at the first phase, what to test. 49% of the QA people tell us that the phase of QA slows down the SAP release. And 45% mention that determining the scope and the business requirements slows down the SAP release. So, depending on which phase you're in, whether you're getting ready for your transformation, for example, if you're on the verge to make the S4HANA move, or whether you're already in the very process of making the move, or whether you just want to stay fit and want to keep your system up and running, depending on which phase you're in, you need to align your QA accordingly. So what does that mean? If you want to stay fit, you still have support packs and you still have enhancement packs which are being released into your system regularly. You will have major and minor change releases. You will have daily, weekly transports, and of course you also have to react to legal and regulatory changes. So this is all leading to changes to your system, and you still want to know what those changes which you bring into your system, what the impact of those changes is to your end-to-end processes. And only if you know what the impact is to your end-to-end processes, you know which processes you really have to test. You cannot test everything because the scope would just be too overwhelming, but you really need to identify what are the core components to be tested. If you're getting ready, then discover, prepare, and explore your QA activities. So make sure you know what you're doing. And if you're making the move, then you're tackling the digital transformation projects, you're moving to S4HANA. So this means you're really changing the core of your business, you're changing the way you work. And if you're doing such radical changes, it's even more crucial to make sure that your system still runs after performing those changes. And all this can be included in SAP in the SAP framework, which is the tool set for implementing SAP solutions with the different steps: decide, repeat, change, react, and deliver. So you want to make sure that all those processes are aligned, and your organization all pulls at the same end of the rope. So how can technology help you in this process? So when you are in the repeat phase, that means you just have minor changes. You just have enhancement packs. You have minor transports, security changes, configuration changes. You want to know exactly what is being changed, and you want to identify exactly what needs to be tested in order to make sure that this change is properly covered. And last not least, you want to increase your quality by making sure that your QA activities are based on data which you collect, and not just on some gut feeling. And once again, you want to reduce the costly hypercare phase. Let's have a deeper look at the technical solutions which can be used to automate all types of QA. In this circle on the left hand side, so what we want to achieve is we want to de-risk transformations, and SAP has the RISE methodology and the RISE tools set you can use to implement those large scale SAP solutions. And you want to make sure that this happens at the minimum risk. At the same time, you want to make sure that the delivery timelines are reduced to the maximum, and you want to decrease the QA costs. So how can you de-risk the transformations? First of all, we have a continuous impact analysis. That means whenever you have any changes to your system, the impact analysis will identify those changes exactly, will show you where those changes, for example, if you have some code snippets being changed, you want to see exactly which transactions and which business processes are affected by this code change. So this is the continuous impact analysis, which can be done in the course of each and every transport. Then, based on that, you can do your intelligent end-to-end test automation. That means if you are fully aware of the impact of a change, which modules, which processes, which other systems are being impacted, then you can scope your testing and your test automation in a way that exactly those changes are being covered, and you make sure that everything which has undergone a test is included in your test automation. Then, of course, you also have to do performance testing, because each new change needs to be fit for production, and the volumes which you are typically testing before go live are much lower, and the system behavior when it undergoes a high workload or high payload may be completely different, and the system may reach a breaking point which you can eliminate by thorough performance testing at an early stage. And at an early stage means not only doing the performance testing at the very end before go live, but also include performance testing at early stages. Maybe even include performance testing for in unit test and system test phases. This enables you to identify potential architectural flaws, which may be the root cause for performance issues. And if you identify them very early, it's much cheaper to eliminate them. Of course, each system change may have some impact on your data. So this is why a continuous data integrity validation is a good thing to make sure that your data integrity is not changed by the change of a system. And typically you would not catch that with a simple functional test execution. But if you do a data integrity validation on your complete set of data, this can enable you to identify such flaws early. And of course, all the information you gather from the different steps I just mentioned need to come into a unified analytics. And if you have this overarching approach, then you will be able to decrease your QA costs. So what does it mean to make qualified data-driven decisions? So this is a typical SAP ecosystem, including SAP and non-SAP systems such as Microsoft and SAP SuccessFactors, SAP Hybris, of course the SAP core systems, and there may be many other systems as well being part of the ecosystem. So you want to take the data from the different portions of your environment, and these different systems are integrated in from a business process workflow perspective, but you should also integrate them from a data perspective, so that you can make real-time data-driven decisions which overarch all the systems which are involved in your day-to-day business processes. You see there's a whole lot of different graphical representation out in the market, which you can use to visualize the impact of data on your system. So just make sure that you find the right approach to that. You know exactly what to test. You need to present your data in a way that you can easily assess the health of the QA. And of course, you also want to see the impact, what all those efforts you're doing and you're putting into QA make for your business. So you want to see the return on investment of the quality assurance. So from an analysis perspective, we're looking at metrics such as coverage, usage, impact analysis, dead code. And dead code, for example, unless you do specific analysis, you will not find that there is dead code. And dead code is code which is typically not being tested, not being used. And if it is being used at a later point of time by accident, then this dead code might cause serious issues. And you want to have the insights into the quality. You want to see the incidents. You want to have an overview of the bugs and the bug fixing status. And of course, you want to measure your performance. And if you integrate your solutions, then you can make qualified, real-time, data-driven decisions. So we need to do a lot of QA activities, but we need to make sure that all the QA activities are streamlined. Only then we can make the most use of all we have. So we need to make sure that we have the right organization model. So here on this slide, you see just a few organization models as in a very simplified manner. And take some time and think about what is the right organization model to fit your organization and your QA needs. So it might be a hierarchical model, or maybe you need to implement a matrix organization in order to orchestrate your QA. And we have established the continuous testing framework, which is a compatible framework which helps you orchestrate your test activities across the different systems, platforms, landscapes, and tools. And it is a generic framework which is there for you to use. It is public domain, so we strongly recommend you to have a look at it and see how much the continuous testing framework can accommodate your needs for QA. So SAP has come up with the RISE tool set, and together with RISE, they have also come up with Activate for RISE. Activate for RISE is a methodology to deploy, adopt, and extend new capabilities. And this perfectly aligns with the continuous testing framework, which is the blueprint to modernize testing. So if you have attended this spring's A4Q World Quality Congress, and if you have seen my speech there, I have given a deeper insight into the continuous testing framework, the 8 steps to modernize testing. You might want to refer to that if you want to know more about it. So the SAP Activate for RISE is shown on the left-hand side. And what you see here is a swim lane diagram, and you see the 6 phases of Activate for RISE. So as we are in QA, we are mainly interested in the testing part, which is about in the middle of the swim lane. And of course, testing has a lot of impact on the other lanes, and we will have a look at that. And we will also highlight the different phases. So the first phase of Activate for RISE is the Discover phase. So in this Discover phase, we strategic planning, discovery assessment, and application and value and scoping happens. And of course, we need to involve the key stakeholders. And here, the enterprise enablement team in our continuous testing framework is the team to assist with the correct strategy for QA. That means we need to create an innovation strategy, and we need to have a high-level roadmap. And the second phase of Activate for RISE is the Prepare phase. Here it is about the customer team self-enablement, initial system access, and the fit to standard system and workshop preparation, user experience strategy and workshop, and the enablement strategy and activities. Here again, the enterprise enablement team can assist you, especially with the impact analysis and with the methodologies support, especially the continuous testing framework and the risk-based testing, which makes sure that you direct your test activities to those test cases and to those parts of your enterprise landscape where you have the highest risk and where you have the highest return on investment of your QA activities. The third phase of Activate for RISE is the Explore phase. So here it is about user interface design, user access and security planning, test planning, and here the program enterprise test architect can support you. They can look at the technology, impact analysis, they can look at intelligent test automation, and they can also apply automated recording. That means we can record business processes based on real-time usage. We can analyze the the frequency and the distribution of and make sure that this is being recorded and being included in the intelligent test automation. And of course, at this point of time, we can start building up the testing platform, the platform for continuous data testing, and also the unified analysis can be established. The fourth phase is the realize phase, and this is where Activate for RISE typically shows that the test activities take place there, but this is merely the test preparation, test execution, and as you just saw, QA activities start way before that. And here we have different teams taking over. So the system team actually is in the core of those activities. So they look at the system integration testing, and also they prepare for the end-to-end testing. And here the full tool set can come into place. So we have the impact analysis, intelligent test automation, automated recording. We have the continuous testing framework and risk-based testing to identify the test cases. And we can apply continuous data testing and unified analytics, which had been prepared earlier, can now be fully applied and can show what the results and what the status of testing is. So in this phase, we have the different test stages, and we can start with unit testing, which is mainly done by the developers, and they can use the impact analysis in intelligent test automation. So we can have metrics such as unit test coverage, and we can also verify code quality based on standard code quality metrics. So we can make unit testing impact analyzed and automated. In system testing, this is where the test analyst and automation specialist come into place. They analyze the test scope based on changes, and they can also analyze based on usage. So it's not only interesting to know what modules and what processes are being impacted by a certain change. In our continuous impact analysis, we also look at what the frequency of certain transactions is. So if we see that a certain ABAP module has been changed and it has an impact on different transactions, then the real-life monitoring can tell us which of those transactions have been used most. And the test cases can be designed in a way that those test cases are included in the test suite which are being used most, and hence which lead to the highest coverage, to the highest risk coverage, because if those transactions still function properly, which are being used very frequently, then we have a very high coverage. Next phase is the system integration phase, which is mainly managed by the system team. And here they can elaborate on the regression test portfolio, which is based on risk analysis. So it is impact analyzed, it can be synced, and the tests can be assembled. And now we come to the king's or queen's discipline, the end-to-end testing. So it's again orchestrated by the system team. They can apply test coverage, they can analyze the test scope based on the changes, they can look at custom code sync, test data sync, and they can assemble their test sets based on reusable tests. So these end-to-end tests should be reusable to the max, and of course they should embrace the entire end-to-end business processes. And before we go into production, we typically have the user acceptance test, which is again orchestrated by the system team, but of course assisted by the business process experts, which make sure that the business processes really meet the need of the business users. And if we get this sign off at the end before the go live, we can reduce the hypercare phase by increased quality dramatically. Okay, so let's just wrap it up to make sure you can take away what I just told to you. So if you want to evolve your SAP QA, you should take away a few things. First of all, make sure you get visibility of any changes in your landscape. And once you know what the impact is, be able to react quickly to the impact of change. And if you want to react quickly, then you need to make sure that your teams are aligned. All the teams which are involved in the go live, in the QA, in the testing, in the development, they need to be aligned to the same delivery time. And of course, you need to be fully aware of regulations. And in order to comply with those regulations, you need to make decisions with full confidence. And this is what you need data for. If you manage to embrace those 4 things, you will end up with repeat and loyal customers because they will have a smooth and continuous experience with your system. And you can support this these 5 things with a benefit from technical solutions such as artificial intelligence and automation. You can also leverage methodologies such as our continuous testing framework, which is free for you to use. And you should connect and integrate your platform for qualified data-driven decisions. So this wraps it up. So if you take away these things, you should now be in a much better situation to make sure your SAP deployments, your SAP migrations, your SAP endeavors, and probably your move to S4HANA happen as smoothly and efficiently as possible. So thank you very much for your attention. And if you want to learn more, please visit us at www.tricentis.com/transformation. There you will also find information on the continuous testing framework. And if you have questions about what I just told to you, please feel free to reach out and we are happy to assist. Thank you very much and enjoy the rest of the day with the A4Q World Conference.
We thank you again, Andreas Günther, for the insightful presentation on quality assurance for SAP. Be sure to tune in to our social media channels